Hi, welcome to today's lesson for Introductory Psychology, Psychology 100. Today's lesson will cover mental disorders. We will start with an examination of what exactly constitutes a disorder and how we define such things, and then we'll cover some specific disorders, how they're diagnosed, what their symptoms are, and maybe a little bit about what their causes might be. In today's online lesson, we'll cover mainly the discussion of what is an illness, a mental illness, how are they diagnosed, and I'll give you a breakdown of some of the various categories of mental illness. In the next online lesson, we'll get into more specifics about each of those various categories, and I'll have lots of videos for you to see the symptoms of various mental illnesses. So in the case of medicine, it's quite easy to define disorders. Disorders are caused usually by a disease, some specific causative agent, which might be a bacterial infection or viral infection, a genetic mutation, or a failure in an organ system, perhaps dysfunctional enzymes or failure of biochemical reactions. We also talk in medicine about illnesses. These are typically chronic maladaptive bodily states. The most common ones, of course, are obesity, heart disease, malnutrition. And these have obvious physiological effects, and in many cases we know quite a bit about their causes and the environmental features that give rise to these chronic diseases. In the case of mental health, we rarely have any understanding of what exactly causes the disorder. We don't know if there's disease, specific biochemical malfunctions, or anything like that. Some of that may be due to our own ignorance, and some of it might be that mental disorders are really something different than typical medical disorders. Many of them, for instance, seem to be dimensional in the sense that the people we call disordered are at the end of a spectrum upon which normal people also fall, and normal people show indications of the sorts of things that in extreme we diagnose as mental illness. So this of course raises the question of what exactly is normal and who gets to define what normal really is. In psychology and psychiatry, we base normal on a kind of statistical average of the population, and it's really defined by a group of psychologists who get together in large committees and make judgments. These judgments have changed through time, and they are just that, judgments and susceptible to the prejudices of those psychologists. It is hoped that a large group of professional psychologists can be called upon to provide relatively value-free judgments, but that, as we'll see, has changed over the years and always must be defined with reference to what they view as normal in society. The product of this working group of psychologists and psychiatrists is called the DSM, or the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychiatric Disorders. We're currently in the 5th version, which was just released last year. As you'll see, this book serves as a Bible of psychiatry. This is what explains what are all the disorders that we're about to talk about, how they can be diagnosed, and of course, how they can be billed to insurance companies. These are given codes that specify each specific disorder that a practicing psychologist or psychiatrist can enter into a patient's record and also use to justify continued treatment and reimbursement by insurance companies. Finally, it doesn't make a lot of sense to talk about mental disorders without worrying about what is the natural state, what is mental health. As you've learned already, this is really only a new topic in psychology brought about by the new field of positive psychology. Positive psychologists try to understand what is the state of good function, and it's only by understanding that we can try to engineer our treatments and cures by reference to what is supposedly high-functioning mental health. Please now continue on to these next two news stories about the DSM-5.